This is the Infinite Receiving Podcast, helping conscious leaders like you tap into a wealth of abundance across all areas of your life and business. My name is Susie Ashworth. I am a single mom of 3 and author of the Sunday Times best-selling book, Infinite Receiving. Crack the code to conscious wealth creation and finally manifest your dream life. On this show, I'll be sharing with you how you can upgrade your identity and your reality to create the life that you have been dreaming of. Because you are ready to be an infinite receiver. Hello, you gorgeous human being. It is Susie Ashworth here, and you are listening to the Infinite Receiving Podcast. And I am really happy to be in your earbuds today. I've got something that's going to be super helpful for you. I am going to ultimately talk about this through the frame of sales and how you can adopt this way of thinking, or really it's how you can stop this way of thinking, which is blocking you from receiving more sales. But actually, this is a universal principle. We ultimately need to be applying to all areas of our lives. I've spoken about this a little bit before in a podcast where I'm breaking down the 4 agreements. And this agreement, this life principle, God, it is just so freaking important. It's like if we can nail this, we will change the game for ourselves. Do you know what it is that I'm talking about? You don't yet, because I've not even given you a clue. But I am going to tell you a story. This happened to me just yesterday evening. And I'm not going to lie, I've got a little bit of shame about how I responded in this situation, especially because I very quickly realized that what was happening in the situation, even though it was directed at me, had nothing to do with me. But because of what I have going on in my own life right now, I used the situation as an opportunity for me to expel some of the frustration, some of the anger, some of the pain that I have been feeling. So I had popped to Tesco's to get my daughter and her friend who was staying over for the night some snacks. It was like late in the evening and there weren't very many cars in the car park at all. And the way that I'd driven into my car parking space, I had driven like somebody had been wearing a blindfold. And I thought to myself, I really can't leave my car like that. And so I just decided to straighten up and drive into the car parking space in front of me, which happened to be next to another car. When I came back to my car, I was on my phone and I was texting a friend who was asking me about the funeral arrangements for my dear friend Lucy. And as I'm texting, I hear this tap on the window. And as I look up, there is a middle-aged man looking at me and saying, like, why have I decided to park here? Why here? And I can feel his disdain, like he's looking at me like I'm something underneath the bottom of his shoe. And he's so frustrated and irritated by the fact that there's this massive car park. There are hardly any cars there. And I have decided to park next to his car. Now, what I will say is that there was absolutely room enough for him to get into his car. However, I was still parked close enough that when he decided to open his door, he could tap my car. Now, I was confused. You know when somebody comes at you and it's out of nowhere? Like, there's just no build-up. It's completely out of nowhere. So I was confused. I didn't really respond, not even to say, like, calm down, until he got in his car. Like, when he tapped my car, I was irritated a bit. And what I said was, don't tap my car, don't hit my car. And then I just looked at him whilst he continued to point with frustration around the entire car park. I could have parked anywhere, but the reality is that I didn't park in that car parking space to upset that man. And the way that he was acting was like I had deliberately done it to piss him off. And that was irritating. My response was internally, is that all you've got to worry about? Is that all you've got to worry about right now? Like, I centered my pain, my grief, my experience. That was the frame that I responded to this man's anger and frustration with. Like, I'm not thinking about you, mate. I didn't even notice your car there. Like, you are not the star of my story. I don't care about your car. I didn't even see your car. And I certainly did not park next to your car in order to annoy you, because guess what? I've got bigger fish to fry. And if me parking next to your car is the biggest thing that you've got to worry about right now, like, that's amazing. That's amazing for you. That was my attitude. Anyway, he pulled out of the car park and I was not close to him. Old Susie might have been like, put the foot down and let's just get right up his backside to really annoy him. I wasn't close to him. I followed just a little bit later and I could see him approaching the roundabout, but then he stopped his car and he had some kind of verbal altercation with the car behind him. I've got no idea what happened. And in that moment, I knew that his frustration had nothing to do with me. I mean, what could have possibly happened as he was pulling out that required him to stop his car and get out of it and shout at somebody else in their car? And I knew it and I recognized it. And I had a choice in that moment when I had confirmation. Like, that was the confirmation that I needed, that the way that he was speaking to me and responded to me in the car park had nothing to do with me. I had a choice, and my choice was to have some kind of compassion for him and the pain that he was clearly feeling and trying to get rid of at all costs. That's what he was trying to do. The discomfort that he was feeling in his body is what he was trying to expel at all costs. And I could have had compassion. That was an option for me. Instead, I'm laughing now because I've already forgiven myself. Instead, what I did is, because he got back in his car and he was driving around the roundabout, is I sped up just a little bit, got to the roundabout, beeped my horn and was like, you prick. Do not judge me. Stop judging me right now. I am a human being. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And that was very much me in my human. It was like, how dare you? And everything's always a mirror, right? So as I'm beeping the horn, calling him a prick and feeling indignation and righteous anger, I very quickly, as I pulled off of the roundabout, very, very quickly felt shame about the fact that I had used his anger as an excuse for me to offload my pain about my friend and all of the other things that have been frustrating me, the low level stress and anxiety that I have been carrying around. That was the excuse. Let's get it all off and let's get it onto him because he deserves it. And the truth is, I've got no idea what was going on in that man's life for him to try and pick a fight with somebody in a car park for parking in a parking space. Like, it is probably a big deal. And whether it is one specific thing or whether it's been a lifetime of little things to cause him to act in that way and then try and pick another fight with somebody else 100 meters down the road, like, it's probably a big deal. And what I had forgotten in that moment when he first tapped on my window is to not take it personally, to not take anything personally, because how somebody treats me in this world is never about me. I am not the star of anybody else's show. I am not the main character in anybody else's show. And even when somebody tries to make me the main character in their experience, it's still not about me. It's always about them. It's always about how they view themselves. It's always about the context that they are choosing to view the situation in. It is never about me. And yet, the human condition means that we make it about us every single time, unless we're being conscious. We always decide that it is about us. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? How are they perceiving me? Why is it that I'm always misunderstood? We always make it about us, and it's never about us. We do this all the time when it comes to sales. All the time. We take it so personally. We take somebody's silence. This is another thing that happened this week. And it's so interesting because the concept for this episode came up this week and then this event happened. And I found myself getting frustrated. I'd responded to somebody who I know, I'd done a collaboration with her, and she'd asked me for details on my retreat. And I got back to her, no response. Normal, not taking it personally. Thought I would just follow up with her, no response. Not ideal, but not taking it personally. A little bit irritated, actually. I was taking it a little bit personally. I was a little bit irritated. It felt a little bit rude, especially because this person teaches sales. And what we teach, and I don't know whether she teaches this, but what I teach, what we as a team teach at Team Susie, is that what we're looking for are empowered yeses and empowered nos. And so I, as an individual, have to be good at saying no, thank you. And when you just don't get back to somebody, especially when they've left a second message, especially when you have a relationship with them, especially when you're teaching sales, I was a little bit irritated anyway, because I'm practicing what I preach around not taking it personally. I thought, I'm just going to close the loop energetically on the conversation. And so I reached out for a third time and just to say, right, I'm closing the loop on this. I'm assuming that you don't have any questions or this isn't a good fit. So yeah, if anything changes, then let me know. No response. I took it fucking personally. I didn't go off the boil, but I made up a story about how rude this person was or how disrespectful they were, or, all of the stuff. And then interestingly enough, this person had posted again about wanting to find out about a retreat, and somebody posted, oh, Susie Ashworth. And she then came into my inbox and was like, I am so sorry. Now, I've got no idea why she didn't respond sooner. But the reality is, it had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with me. And it had everything to do with her. What her priorities were at that time. And her priority just wasn't getting back to me. And that is okay. Like, it is what it is. I can make up a story about it, or I can just continue to reach out to people and generate my pipeline. And what most people do is make up a story about it. Like, I made up a story about the guy in the car park. Like, how dare he? Who does he think he is? I'll show him. It's all story. It had nothing to do with me. And when we take things personally, it costs us so much. It costs us our peace. And the most potent salesperson is a peaceful salesperson, not a desperate person, not an angry salesperson, not a needy salesperson, but a peaceful salesperson. When you take rejection, when you take other people's stuff on your shoulders, it is costing you your peace, and it has nothing to do with you. We have to stop taking things personally. In sales, it is imperative that you do not take it personally. It is imperative that you feel super, super comfortable following up with people, because you know what they say, the fortune is in the follow-up. Even when they don't acknowledge you, even when people say no, understand that you're going for the no, because every no is one no closer to getting a yes. So it's part of the process. Your job in life and in your profession is to get more proficient when it comes to managing your emotions. When it comes to your emotional intelligence, you need that when it comes to sharing information about your services and making invitations around how you can help people. You have to have a high level of emotional intelligence, and that starts with not needing to take on other people's projections or make up stories in the absence of their input. Keep it factual, because you never know what's going on in someone else's life, and it is never, ever about you. So I hope that this episode has been super helpful. If you have enjoyed it, do me a favor. Please tag me on social media, Susie_Ashworth. Let me know what your number one takeaway was, and or share this episode with a friend, somebody who you know would benefit from hearing this message. I would deeply, deeply appreciate that. And until next time, please remember that faith plus action equals miracles.
Thank you for listening to Infinite Receiving with me, Susie Ashworth. I'd love to share with you my Infinite Receiving activation audio. Go to susieashworth.com/activate infinite receiving.